All right, so our second section in making trees is going to be making the smaller branches and the leaves. So I just happened to find some um, good references here. You can find them all over the place. An important thing that I have in notes is that when you're searching for tree references, it's really good to search for include the word isolated, because that way you get a white background and you don't have to worry about photoshopping anything, any of the back out of it, the background out of it. So like when you're looking for a full tree, you want to look for tree isolated, and then if you're looking for branches, you want to look for tree branches isolated. So, depending on what kind of a tree you have, like if you have a tree that's withered that has no leaves, you'll want to go with one of these guys, and we'll look at it a little bit larger. You'll want to go with one of these guys here, and then if you want one with leaves, you'll want to have something like that. So and sometimes you're going to actually have to take some of these branches and add leaves to them. Um, so I think what we can do is I'm just going to use these two that I have here that my dogs. Everyone okay over there? Yes, they are. Okay, so I found these two images that are going to be just perfect for an example. And what we're going to do with these guys is um, we're going to make an alpha channel for it. So the white in the background is going to be the alpha channel. So let's see here. What do we have? So select in Photoshop, that is, and we're going to go to color range. And then we're going to, and you'll notice that it now has an eyedropper. So we click on the back of that, the background. And that should bring up pretty good. We don't want it to be too high. There you can see um, uh, the copyright symbol there. We want it to be probably around like 30. We don't want anything on the inside to be taken out. So that's pretty much, it's not too good. We want just the white areas. We could click off contiguous and select all of it. There we go. There, much better, much better. Okay, so what I did there was I went instead from color range, I went to the magic wand tool and I turned off contiguous, and then I just clicked in the white area, and that gave me the background. So, and to show this red here is the quick mask. So now what I'll do is I'm going to invert this. I press Control Shift I, and inverts it, or I think you can go to select and inverse. Yeah, that's how you do it. And then I'm going to copy it, and then I'm going to paste in place right where it's at, and I'm going to make a new layer under that layer one. Make a new layer by clicking on that, and I'm just going to fill it with white just for now. So actually, just to make sure that we know what we're looking at, I'm going to fill it with a different color. So I'm going to fill it with, I'm going to make it a green color in the background. So foreground, and fill it with that. All right, so now things are looking a little bit better. Um, you'll notice also that there's a little bit of white here and there that is causing an issue. To fix that, we can do a couple things. We can go over here, we can do what we had done before, color range, and we select the white area, bright white. Select that, and let's see, if we delete it, there we go. That deleted a little bit of it, and that's pretty good. There's some more things we can do. Let's do color range and select the very, very white section, just like that. It's not getting enough. selecting that white area, color range. Let's do a little bit more. Still not doing it. All right, well, we're going to leave it like that for now. That's good enough. Now, one of the things too, we can always fix that up later. You can fix it up by touching it up a little bit, going in, painting over it. Can be a little bit tedious, but you know, that's all part and parcel of it. So we now have the image cut out. So let's bring that in a little bit. There we go. Now we want to make an alpha channel for this so that it's transparent. And let's see, one way to do that. The easiest way is to select all of it on the layer that has the leaves on it by pressing Control A, and right and left. Right, left, there we go. It wasn't in the correct tool. So we have now just the content that we're going to, our leaves. So we'll go into our channels. We'll create a new channel. And we have the alpha channel. And here we're going to fill it, and that was Shift F5, by the way. Fill it with white. And then we have our alpha channel. So white is opaque and black is transparent. And that is our texture for, one of our texture for leaves. So let's save this thing out, and we'll first save it as a PhD, PSD, a doctorate of texturology. So save, and there we go. Then with that, we're going to save it out as a TGA. I like using TGAs because they have embedded alpha channels in them. Keep the alpha channel, save, and make sure it's at 32 bits. The other ones will not show up properly in Maya. All right, so there's our alpha channel, and now that's the first one. All right, so this one, let's do the same thing here. So what we do is we do the wand, we turn off contiguous, we click in the background, we press Q to see how that's working. It's looking good. And let's invert that, Control Shift I, and copy, and then paste in place. There we go. And in the background, let's create a new one. Let's select a nice green color, and I pressed brush, and then I hold down Alt, and that'll get a nice green color. Let's get kind of a medium green color. There we go. Shift F5 to fill. Select this to foreground color. Okay. All right, there we go. We're going to ignore the stock stuff there just to show how to do it. Okay, so we have that. Now we're going to go to layer 1. Make sure we have marquee selected. Control A, select all. Right, left. We just have the leaf selected. Go into channels. Select a new alpha channel. Shift F5. And the contents are white. And there's our alpha channel. Okay. Go over here, and we're all set with that. So now let's save this out as a PhD in texturology, or a PSD. And now let's save that out as a TGA. There's our TGA, 32 bits. All right, so we have the textures for that. Now we also have the texture for bark, and I got some tree bark off of Quixel, which I told you guys about, which is fantastic, all free stuff, and you'll definitely use a lot of that. So this is the bark that, there it is, albedo. And I'm going to bring that in I want to look at that. So it's kind of a bland bark texture, but it's all right. Now, the issue with this bark is that it is super high res. So depending on what your guy's computer is, you probably are not going to want to keep it at this really, really high resolution. 8K is not necessary. I think if we look at the resolution, let's check it out. Pixels, 8192. That's a little bit on the high side. Also, it's going to really bog down Unreal when you load that in. I thought Unreal had crashed, but it was still just thinking about it. So let's just put it down to 1024 just for now and make things a little bit happier. And that's good enough. So let's save that one, and we'll just call that. Um, let's see. 1024, and we'll keep that as a JPEG for now, and put that down just to 10. Okay, so we have that. We have our branches, and we'll go out of Maya or out of Photoshop and go into Maya. Okay, so we're back at our tree. We're going to bring back our image plane. What I did there was I just clicked on the image plane and pressed H. It'll toggle it on and off. And we're going to want to make some small little branches that we can propagate around. We'll just start with one, and then we'll be able to change that around. So we'll start with this one over here. In order to do that, we'll create our wonderful cylinder. And this one is definitely going to want to be a lot lower. So we can make it 8. We could probably even make it 6. We're going to want to make sure that it has soft edges. So I soften those edges. And I'll go into perspective view so that we can rotate it. That's interesting. And make it a lot smaller. Let's go into front view. Let's move it instead of scaling it. That's unusual. Let's freeze the transforms on that. Delete the history. There we are. Okay, so now we're going to just work on this little one. So I'll go over here to X-ray, and we can still see it. Make it a little smaller. And then let's grab these verts, pull it out just a little. Okay, rotate that around. All right, so now we're going to do like with what we did with the rest of the tree. We're going to select polygons. So I just have the tip selected, and I deselected the rest of the body. Control E and W, and I'm just going to start extruding these guys all around. Control W. That's Hildegard. This is a long-haired dachshund. Yes, you defended me quite well, Hildegard. Thank you very much. All right. So I think that's probably good enough for the start. Now, what we're going to do here is the rest of it is going to be texture, because we just want the main branch to be the one that really is obvious to the eyes. So we turn that off. We can see now that that's there. Okay, so there is our nice little branch. So now what we'll want to do is we're going to want to, maybe we'll want to give it a little bit of variation. If it's in the tree, it's around over there. So I'll want to take some of these edge loops and move them around. Okay, so we have that. That's looking good. Now let's bring in the textures. So here we're going to go into our hypershade, and we're going to make a new texture. You don't want to use the default Lambert. So there's that. This is going to be leaves 1. And then we'll make another one. And this will be leaves 2. So our leaves 1 graph material. No, we'll graph input and output on leaves 1. And then we're going to add our TGA. So we click on that, click on this to add it. We're going to find foliage and leaves and branches and branches a.tga. We load that up, and you can see right here that since we made it as a TGA, it was able to understand that it was a transparent texture, and it filled everything in nicely for us. All right, so leaves 2. Let's do input and output on that. Click there, click here, file. All right, click on that. I'm going to find branches B, which is TGA right there. Open that up, and that looks nice. Let's also make our bark texture, just like what Hildegard likes to do. And there we go. Now, this is not a transparent texture, so it'll come out. Where was our bark? Bark, bark, bark. (1024), that's right. There we are. Okay, so that is our bark texture. Let's move that up here. Might as well just put that bark texture on just for the hell of it. You can see now that there's a whole lot of issues with that, so we're going to definitely have to fix that up. But no problem. And I'm applying that from the other window. And I'm going to center that pivot for it so we know how to move it around, or we can move it around better. Okay, so now we're going to make the planes for this branch. This can be a little tricky. So we just have to futz around with it a little bit. In order to do that, we're going to polygon primitives. Let's make plane. Let's move that over. We don't want that much. Let's do that. 3 and see what happens. So with that, what I'll do is I'm going to move that Okay, so there's that. We're going to add a smaller one. Click on that over here, apply material selection. There we go. Okay, there's one. And duplicate that. Now we're going to add our leaves 2 to that. 2 different leaves. They're a little, the size is a little different. So I have to scale that down a little bit. Okay. Now we just want to add these guys to our branch. All right, so we've added it to the branch. We're just trying to get it to fit in properly. Duplicate it. I change that to flat lighting. That way you won't see the shadows behind the tree, behind the leaves. Okay, so we have these two basically placed. Let's just give it a little bit of a curve here, some variation. Okay. Don't want to move it too much because we don't want to stretch the texture or compress it too much. All right, so that branch is actually starting to look kind of nice. Let's add this one also to it because we want to be able to include that. There might be some issues with this color variation, but then again, the color variation might actually be kind of nice. Now, where is the end of it? There it is. Bring that up. Okay. And I'm just trying to give it, like I said, just some variation without distorting the texture too much, because we want it to be able to, we want to be able to look at it from a lot of different angles and have it look good. That's what the umbrella technique was used for, was to have that ability to look at something and look at the leaves from different angles and have it have volume. And we pretty much have some volume going on there. It's a little bit sparse, but it's good so far. So now with that, let's hide that and let's do something with this texture. So I'm going to save this, save an increment. And let's look at the texture. So here's our texture. So I think the best way to texture this one right here would be to give it a cylindrical map. And let's bring this guy down here. And so we'll create a cylindrical map. And that looks pretty wacky. And click on that guy, move it around. Okay, that looks about it. And then we'll click on this guy again, pull these guys down. Let's look at how that's looking. Okay, that's a little off. So there's one other way that we can do this. We can just click on a normal base texture, and then we can go to edge mode. We can select all the way down the end of it, click on cut and sew, cut, go over here, go out of component mode, and click on unfold. There we go. That's actually the best way to do it. All right, looks good. We don't need this end. So there's our branch. It looks nice and twisted. Let's display all. And there's our leaves. Let's group this guy together. Branch with leaves. And center the pivot. And let's look at it from the front and see how it's looking. Turn on our image plane. Okay, so it's not necessarily going to match up completely with our tree, but at least we do have the start of it. And we're going to have to place a lot more of these little of the leaves. Let's see. So now let's work on the texturing of the tree. So this will take a little bit of contemplation. Probably going to do the same thing that we did with the other branch over there. So we can select this branch here. Okay, there we go. Let's go to our tool, our UV editor. And there's our UV editor. Select normal based, and oh, that's there. Let's get rid of that bottom area. Okay, and UV shell. Let's select a lengthwise edge going all the way up. Let's go to cut. Let's go to UV shell. UV shell, click on that, click on unfold. Let's see how that's looking. It's all right, but we do see a little bit of stretching there. If you look at it, not too much, but yeah, that's good enough. Turn that off. Okay, now let's get to the rest of this stuff. So here's that. And faces. Let's deselect these guys. And let's go back to normal based. And then let's go find lengthwise edge loop. Double click on that. Oh, it got more than we really wanted, so we're going to deselect these guys. And then cut, select UV shell, and unfold. There we go. Oh, the unfold tool is so good. So now we only have one part left, and it's this one. And do like we had done before, normal based, and then we'll go into edge, and we'll select an edge. Ooh, we got a lot of edges going there. Deselect these edges. Okay, so it looks like it done some weird stuff there, selected a bunch more edges than we need. Okay, that's good. Cut, UV shell, select, unfold. Great. Now, of course, the thing with trees is that you have to have a tileable texture. So if we look at this from far away, you can see that that texture is very blurry. So we're not going to worry so much about that because our solution is to go over here, do UV shell, and then we just bring it right on up. Make it a lot larger. There we go. Okay. Then we can move that out of the way. And then this one over here, make that a lot larger. And then this one is for our other little branch up here. Okay, so you can see how like a big tree like this needs to have a lot of texture space. And even now it might be a little bit on the low tessellation, but it's looking pretty good so far. Let's display, show all, and then there's our other branch over there. And let's put on wireframe on shaded so we can see a little bit easier what's going on. Okay, now with this guy here, we're going to now want to click on the actual group, and we'll go to front view, and then let's duplicate it around the place. Hide the image plane. Now if we click on one of these guys, I think, yeah, there we go, you press up, and it will allow you to, it'll go to the top, to the main object that is the parent. We can also hold down D, and if we go to 4, hold down D and V, and we can go to the end right there, and then we can have our center point. Yep, no lighting, flat lighting. Have our center point move like that. Probably wouldn't be bad actually if we combine these guys. So I'm going to combine them and move the center point again because combining moves that center point. It's much easier than dealing with that. All right, so flat lighting. Now we're just going to propagate this around the whole image. Bring back our thing. Select this guy. Move it around. And put it in all the locations it needs to be. So I'm going to pause the video and come back in a second. So also what I'll do is I'm going to take some of these guys together, and I'm going to make some tree clump areas that I can just place all around. Some of these are going to look a little strange with branches just off in the middle of nowhere. So I'm going to have to cut a little bit of that out so that you can't actually see it. So if I go over here and go to multi-cut, I'm just going to cut out this part so you can't see that it was actually that there was another branch in there. And just going to try to make it a little bit believable. So if I cut out these guys and that one, helps a little bit. And as long as I have a bunch more of these leaves that I can cover that up with, you won't actually see that it's made up of a whole bunch of separate pieces. Okay, so you can see here that it's really thin, but over here it's fine. So we definitely want to fix that. So what we'll do is we'll take that down. Let's center the pivot on that and move it down and rotate it around so we get some more volume to it. That one up. There we go. I could probably rotate this one just a little bit. I have two at one time. And there's another issue right there. We can see that we have some of our smaller ones. There we go. Turn this back on to flat lighting. Pick up the dog. And so there we are. So I'm getting pretty good. It's looking pretty good, rather, with being a good clump of leaves. Not a whole lot of polys going on there. All right, so that looks pretty good. Now I'm going to take that and I'm going to combine that and just start propagating it more around the whole tree so that we. All right, and so once I start filling it out, it starts looking a lot better. And that's pretty much done. The one thing, though, is that I'm not a big fan of this texture. So I do kind of want to fix that a little bit and change it up. So I'm going to look at that one texture, check out its location, change it to a different one. I think, is this the one that we have? Should be a little bit brighter. There we go. Let's see what happens if we do that. There we are. Yes, much better. It's a little oversaturated, but it looks a whole lot better and a lot more appropriate. And I added a little bit of a place where a branch has broken off Probably going to add a couple, probably add one more over there somewhere. Probably up around over here. But just cut into it and added a new texture into it. But that's kind of, that, well, not kind of, that really is the way to make a tree. And it's not too big on the size. There it is 10,000 tries, so it is a pretty big tree. Also, it's a rather tall tree, so our character wouldn't go up very high in there. So if you're trying to make trees that are a bit lower to the ground, it's the same exact process, um, just a little bit different size. Um, so we'll ultimately want to put everything all, combine everything all together. Combine, combine, combine. It's going to think about it. Delete our history. And it should be really all that there is to it. If I delete some of these extra guys, is there an extra branch in there? I don't think so. No, let's get rid of that one. That's our tree. All right, so big tree. There we go. That is how you make a tree in Maya for games. Thank you very much for watching.